Seven o'clock in Gardner, Kansas. It's time to call Gardner City Council meeting to order. Please stand and recite with me the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, super excellent. Okay, well, we have a proclamation, and actually this proclamation was recited at Laura Gorley's retirement ceremony, which took place on the 26th of April. I hope that some of you could have made it. But I'm going to recite it here from the dais so that it's read for the record. Whereas Laura Gorley has began her distinguished career with the City of Gardner as a clerk, that was over 30 years ago. And whereas Laura worked her way up from her initial clerk position to supervisory and management positions in the city's finance department to finance director and ultimately to interim city administrator for the City of Gardner. And whereas throughout her career, Laura supported every department within the City of Gardner in some way, providing exceptional knowledge, service, and leadership to city staff, governing body members, and citizens alike. And whereas Laura has always been known as a great team player, a strong leader, and for her extraordinary commitment to fiscal stewardship and customer service. And whereas under Laura's guidance, the City of Gardner received an award for its comprehensive annual financial report for 14 consecutive years, and the Government Financial Officers Association of the United States and Canada's Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for 4 consecutive years. And whereas to her fellow employees, Laura was known to have a solution for every problem, being the queen, a deep love of her Kansas City Royals, and a bat perpetually waiting on her desk. And whereas Laura Gorley retired on April 26, 2019, after 30 years of commendable dedication to the City of Gardner. Now therefore be resolved that I, Steve Shute, Mayor of the City of Gardner, Kansas, do hereby proclaim April 26, 2019, as Laura Gorley Day in the City of Gardner, Kansas. And Laura is now getting a much-deserved vacation in Europe, and our best wishes to her in her retirement. So I believe that she deserves a round of applause, even though she's not here. So, having said that, there's a presentation coming up now on Gardner Lake. I believe Michael Kramer is going to be presenting. Michael, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. You can pull up any time. Did you have any issues, or are you good? Okay, so we've talked about the docks at Gardner Lake a few times, and I'm going to touch on that, and then also give you a little project update. So the first thing is the Tier 1 and Tier 2 docks, and so you've heard a couple times from staff, and then at the April meeting from some members of the public and the Lake Board about the desire to be able to repair or rebuild or replace the Tier 2 docks. Again, there's about 17 Tier 2 docks where currently classified as Tier 2 docks. And you know, some of the discussion at I believe the April meeting was, what surrounded, what some of the history of it, why are we here? And there's not a lot in the files that I could find. So prior to 2012, this was not in the code. There was a Gardner Lake section, but there was not a section on Tier 1 and Tier 2 and those requirements. And so in August of 2012, those were put in place via the current ordinance, which is number 2400. That include the two definitions of Tier 1 and Tier 2 docks, and then also the provisions of no new Tier 2s or no full reconstruction of those docks, only minor repairs. And so we've had this code since 2012. There were some engineers' notes just prior to that of some Gardner Lake meetings, of a work session with council. There were some notes about other issues, nothing about this Tier 1 and Tier 2. And so we do believe, based on talking with other staff and with Laura, that it was put in partially to limit the overall number of docks. And before, there was really nothing in the code that would limit any resident from going out and saying, I want a dock at Gardner Lake, as far as the code. So again, hopefully it's, no, you can just forward one. If you just use your arrow keys or the space bar, it should go.
There it is. There it is, Mike. Yep, there it is. So in blue over there highlighted, it's one of the Tier 2 docks. You can see it. So back to the definition of Tier 2 dock. It includes all lot owners in this Gardner Lake subdivision property that are adjacent to or continuous with city property comprising the lake shore. And so this lot, even the one that's highlighted, doesn't have to cross any other property than City of Gardner property to get to their dock. So with reading it that way and interpreting the code that way, they're a Tier 1 dock. They're no longer a Tier 2 dock. You go on to the next. This one's a little bit different. I'm actually not real sure which one the blue highlight is. But again, there's an easement down to the water whereby they could access a dock if that's indeed their dock down there. This is where we have the most Tier 2 docks clustered in one location. And so, again, in the past, for the most part, these were all considered Tier 2 docks because they were on the other side of an access road. Reading the code strictly, they don't have to cross any other property other than City of Gardner property to get to it. So if you read the code and interpret that way, these can be considered Tier 1 docks because they are adjacent and contiguous to City of Gardner property that is the lake shore. You can go on to the next. This is the property that the gentleman, Walt Hutzel and Mr. Flum, and came and talked to us at the April meeting, and the decision that was made that the property that they own is adjacent to and contiguous to the water, and
that it would be fine to split that property and move forward with another dock there, considering a tier 1, and that was the direction and the guidance received from council. I believe that the Evans are here and they own the property to the north and have some reservations about that decision. I will say that, and I think I see Mr. Flum, walk in, and I think they've already moved forward with the split. I think that's been recorded with the county. They moved forward with the deposit on a dock, etc. I haven't issued the permit yet because I need to see that the property's all in order, etc.
So one question for you really quickly, Michael. With the strict interpretation of the code as we're talking about here, are there any properties at Gardner Lake that would be considered tier 2 docks?
Not the way I read the code, and I worked with the planners for about an hour and we read it and looked at some different ones. I believe that some of those back near that first one where they are across the street and maybe there's not an access easement, or near then yes, I think there are some tier 2 properties that could be considered tier 2. And the code existing as it is, and you can go ahead and flip to the next slide. So the code existing as it is in red, I believe that all of our existing tier 2 docks, if you read the code and apply it, they're all tier 1. And that's reading it through it with the planners and trying not to inflict any of my predispositions on it. And so I think that and so based on our conversations of wanting to see those tier 2 docks come up to code, meet code, be able to be rebuilt, which would really improve the quality of the lake. I'd like to continue to interpret it that way versus using the road, because honestly, it's the road that's been used as the qualifier in the past.
Correct.
And since at least 2012. And I believe in talking with Larry DeMardo, the Lake Board president, and the discussions they've had, which I tried to communicate previously, and I think he came and spoke very well about them. I think that'd be their desire, is to be able to, see those existing docks maintained, and if there's another situation or two where there's a tier 2 dock possible, that is similar to these others, that it would be in there too. But the code, I think, does protect us from, having an unlimited number of docks,
Right.
and or someone outside of the Gardner Lake subdivision coming in from, quite honestly, anywhere and saying, I want a dock there and would like to permit a dock. So I would like your blessing, per se, to go ahead and move forward with that interpretation. And
do we need to amend this so there's no tier 2?
I don't think so, because I think you still want the requirement in there that
Absolutely.
these people are not allowed to have docks, and I don't think you have to do an amendment. And I think Chuck could probably read through that and double check and make sure at some point, but
They have to access the dock from their property, which means right there, their property kind of is the qualifier.
Yeah.
They have to own property that's contiguous to the lake through city property in order to be able to qualify.
And we can amend for clarification if you so desire, but that's not what's on the agenda tonight. And the current
No.
interpretation that Mr. Kramer has used and is suggesting that we continue to use would not require amendment of the code. If, however, you wanted to change or clarify, you could do so, and we'd be happy to take a look at that with some fine points.
but
Can we just put
Thank
a
you.
Post-it note in there and say,
And
this is what we think?
Can we, I'd like to see that picture again on the one that we were just talking about last meeting.
This one?
That one. So what's the yellow lots?
That's the lots just of the property owner to the north,
Is north down,
up.
up in this
Yeah.
case? Okay. So the property owner to the north, we're saying that that hatched to the southwest, where that dock is now, is contiguous to their property?
No, it's contiguous to the lake, yeah.
If you take the road out, you
If you take
I see
the
that,
road,
but it's
yeah,
it's not though. It's the house to the south that is across the street from that, not the one on the north.
right,
But
but
you can access it with any city
this
property.
piece of property here, they own the property. They own the property, and so that's why the decision was.
But what would
was
keep
made.
you then from buying a house anywhere in the middle and just having a piece along the edges and saying, well, that's my property, I can now have a dock there in 8 places?
You-
Well, somebody else already owns that property.
Well, it could be bought and turned over and whatever.
Sure.
So do you want to have it tied to the property along the lake shore or to the property owner that has a home?
It is tied to the property and
You have
the
to
lake
access from
shore.
here.
It
Only.
is tied to the lake shore, yes.
Only, yes.
Right, you can't go put a dock on somebody else's property.
Right, I get that.
Okay.
I see no relationship at all between the house and the dock. I see the relationship between property and the dock.
Hmm. That's why I was trying to figure out why the hatch is the word catty corner.
It's the way they bought it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Is there a stipulation that you want to see added that individuals who have property such as this must have a domicile at Gardner Lake?
No.
Because that's gonna cause problems.
No, I don't think you need
And
that.
how many of those would there be? There can't be that many that just own a
A
piece of
small
property.
parcel.
I really don't know of any other parcels on the lake.
Why do you want a dock if,
they want a dock?
why do you want a dock if you don't have a, I mean,
Well, plenty of people, think of marinas. They always don't want a boat slip.
I don't think, we
I
don't
just
wanna
think they
open
have
that can of
property.
worms, yeah.
So do you wanna keep the current interpretation or not, Jeff?
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, seems fine.
All right,
So
If
you're
we have
okay with
clarification
that?
later, we can.
I think we have consensus.
Okay, thank you.
If you wanted to clear, I was gonna say, if you wanted to make the language clearer, I wouldn't be opposed to making clearer language along the same lines.
Okay. I think we'll take another look at that, and that's something maybe I can talk with Chuck a little bit about, or if we read through it and see any issues or see any other properties that we're concerned about
And I would say we
addressing.
do that with,
Definitely.
with consultation with the Lake Association, with Larry and his group.
Yes.
Are we holding up anybody from doing what they've are already planning to do and have permits in order by
No,
looking at it again?
No, I think
Okay.
with this little bit of clarification from the council, to me, I don't think so.
Okay,
Yeah. And so if I could flip forward 2 slides, and I'll give you a quick update. So, as part of our inspection of the dam, we did ask our engineer to look at the spillway and different alternatives, et cetera, to improving the spillway. They looked at various low water crossings and a pedestrian bridge. They didn't look at anything that involved vehicular access because it's just really not feasible from a dollar standpoint. And so we really ended up back with replacing the existing spillway in kind. So removing it, doing some slope protection, and reconstructing, reinforcing the structure underneath, and then rebuilding the spillway as is. And so it'd still be closed to vehicular traffic, but would And really it was the only alternative that kept the lake elevation where it's currently at. All the others needed to either lower the lake elevation slightly for its permanent pool so that the flood pool would stay the same, or keep the elevation where it's at and then the flood pool would increase, and that'd require FEMA approval and map changes. And so we really landed back on let's restore the existing riprap along the face of the dam and then replace the spillway in kind. Right now it's estimated about a $750,000 project. In the CIP in 2018, when we started our study, the CIP has $300,000 in there. I've discussed it with Matt. He believes it's a doable project, and we'll be, looking to move forward, and we'll be, bonding the project. I'm hoping that the costs come in a little bit lower than that because, quite honestly, a lot of it is the riprap restoration. And when I say a lot, a few $100,000 of the total, and that's a pretty big chunk of change, and we may be able to to get that estimate down a little by filling in some gaps rather than redoing the whole thing. But as engineers, we tend to try and be a little bit conservative, so I hope that number is conservative. We are moving forward with scope and fee with Olson. They've been our consultant on the lake, and they have they've done the last several inspections on the dam. I believe they did our breach analysis, and so we're confident that they're well qualified. And so we expect to at some point come back, probably maybe even as early as the next meeting, with approving of their agreement to keep the project moving forward. So
Great.
just basically wanted to give you a little update so that so you'd be aware. Any questions on that project? Okay.
Yeah, the spillway was actually in our CIP for 2020, I think is what
I believe it was actually originally in the 2018.
Yeah, but it's been
but it
pushed
was
back
the
a
smaller
couple of years.
number.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Excellent.
okay. All right. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Michael.
All right, next on the agenda is public hearing. We have two public hearings this evening. Both of these have to do with waiver of distance limitation for the sale of cereal malt beverages. One for the Smoke on the Trails barbecue competition, the other one for craft beer and wine festival. As per ordinance, we must consider each of these separately. So I will entertain a motion on public hearing for the Smoke on the Trails barbecue competition.
So moved.
Second.
Motion Moore, second Melton, that we open a public hearing for the purpose of receiving comments on the request for a waiver of distance limitation. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, any abstentions? The public hearing is now open. If you have comments, please come forward, state your name and address for the record, and be heard.
Could you pop that slide back to the three yellow houses for me, please?
This is not, this is for the
Oh,
public
I'm sorry, I
hearing
thought you said
specifically.
pop up and talk.
Yes, we'll have public comments afterwards. Sorry about
I
that.
got you, sorry about that.
No, that's fine, that's fine. This is just for the cereal malt beverage certificate for waiver of distance limitation.
I was getting excited.
Yeah.
We've never had to do it.
We never had to propose that.
Any motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Gregorczyk, second Moore, that we close the public hearing. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, any abstentions? The public hearing is now closed. Second public hearing is for the Craft Beer and Wine Festival, will be held September 28th, 2019. May I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Melton, second Winters, that we open a public hearing for the purpose of receiving comments on the request for a waiver of distance limitation for the Craft Beer and Wine Festival. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, any abstentions? The public hearing is now open. I just like using.
I
Yeah,
understand.
it's fun.
Can I try it?
Keep your hands off. I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion Moore, second Melton, that we close the public hearing. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, any abstentions? The public hearing is hereby closed. Public comments. It's time for the public, for the public to come forward. Members of the public are welcome to use this time to make comments about city matters or items on the agenda that are not part of a public hearing. If you wish to come forward, Steve, please state your name and address for the record.
Mark Evans, I own the house at 15640 East Gardner Lake Road. It was on the, if you can get that screen up, you're working on it. So anyway, if you remember, there was a house with all yellow, there were 3 yellow blocks.
Correct.
I'll get to it, there we are, just went right by it.
Right there, yes.
All right, so the blue house, we're the yellow blocks, that's our house. Bought that house 26 years ago. The house across the street used to belong to the Hutzels, who I believe are here. They owned that house for years, 10 or 12 years, I believe. And they have a dock down there, which is grandfathered. It was put back there in the 60s. And they're golden. Mr. Flum bought the property. You can't even see it because it's to the north. It's the very top of the map.
This one here, yes.
That's his property. Now, by your own code, that is neither contiguous or adjacent to. It's not touching anything. It's 500 feet away. By your own code definition. And what Mr. Baldwin was talking about, that anybody that's on second tier that's hooked to the road can go down the road. Someone's got a little lot they want to sell them, they can sell them, they can put up a little boat dock. So if you're going to allow Mr. Flum, I get where Bill Flum's coming from. I understand what he wants. He wants a boat dock. I get that. But if you're going to change the rule for him, you got to change it for everybody. Just take it out of your code. Otherwise, you're just going to have a free for all out there. That's what's going to happen.
We can't comment
Oh
on
no, I understand. I'm just telling you that's what's going to happen. So, Mr. Kramer here and all the public works directors before him, all these mayors since 1967, nobody's allowed second tier docks since then. And there's a reason for that. That lake is a quiet, pretty much private lake, one of the few lakes in Johnson County where you can still have a boat dock and get away with it. And I would ask you to respect his thoughts on it and exactly what your code means. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Evans, appreciate it.
Hi, good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm Joy Evans. So along those same lines, this, the property in the blue to the south that's adjacent to the lake, that was actually part of our original plat of our property. Somewhere back in the 60s, Mrs. Meyer gave it to the people that owned the 104 acres across the street so that he could fish down there. I don't believe that it was ever legally divided. It probably should have never left our plat of property, but therein lies the property problem. The Hutzels came in and bought a foreclosed house across the street, and they contacted the estate of the Stark estate, and they purchased that lot. They took a grandfathered dock that was grandfathered to the Lycums, which is directly across from that. There was a grandfathered lot and dock because they used to mow the property for the Starks. And they switched that dock. Lycums voluntarily removed it, and Hutzels put their dock there. And that's how that second tier dock became there. Over the years that they've been here, I don't know, 8 or 9 or 10, they've tried, Michael's told us a dozen times or so, to put other docks down there to do things. They have since moved, and they have bought a property on the lake. And so they're now on the lake, and this was deeded to their children. Bill Flum came and bought the lot to the north of that, and now they've made an agreement based on what you said back at the April meeting, that that was a contiguous property and that he could put a dock there. So now, according to Bill Flum over the weekend, he's gonna put a dock there in 6 weeks, and so now there are 2 second-tier docks. Now Lycum's house is gonna be up for sale across the street. They're moving into assisted living. They're gonna want another dock back there. And so we've got dock, but what's transpired just in the last couple of weeks was they've cut our bushes down on the corner because the now Sprague family, which was the Hutzel house, they can't see the dock from there. And they've started to put a shed up, which is not permitted. And apparently they don't have to get a permit, is what they told somebody, because it's going to be on some blocks and they're going to run power to it, and they're going to have security cameras because they're afraid people are going to steal things, because nobody can see that from here. It's not obvious, but when you're up here on second tier, you can't see this property, and I guarantee you Bill Flum can't see anything. He's 500 feet away. So you're opening up this parcel of property that was supposed to just be a little fishing port to dock, shed. What's to stop parking cars down there? I'm telling you, over the 4th of July weekend, one weekend, there were probably 10 cars parked down there. There was loud music. We had nothing but beer bottles, bottle rockets on our property. There were dogs there, and there was somebody urinating in our bushes. So it opens up this property, because it's contiguous to the lake, to problems. And we'd like to avoid that. And we may be the only property on the lake that's like this, but we'd appreciate your understanding about this, that this is not what this was designed for. This was not designed to have, I mean, what's to stop us on it? We've got a northern parcel, it's another 150 feet, parceling that every 20 feet off and letting people pull their cars in, put a boat dock, and if they're in the Gardner Lake, second tier, according to you, that's possible to do that. It's just a lot of problems that should have never transpired to begin with, based on what was done from 1937 to 1967 when our house was built. And so, thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it. Any other public comment? And we do have a 5-minute limitation. The clock hadn't started, but there's a clock over here on the right-hand side. All right, your left.
Okay.
And just please.
Hello, I'm Chuck Lawrence. I live at 15500 Lake Road 4. I'm a board member of the Gardner Lake Association. And I just want to thank you for clarifying this Tier 2, Tier 1 dock information for everybody. There's lots of rumors around the lake that have been going around. And I think now that you've clarified it, and thank Michael Kramer for work he's done in digging into it. I think the lake will be a better place, and we'll have residents that understand, and once you understand, then feelings don't get hurt, and we'll end up with a better lake. So again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Joe.
I'm Bill Flum. I live at 5635 Gardner East Road. Wanting to split the dock, so we've got the lot split, the plot plan and all that. Like Michael said, it's being at the county. Jeff Malott at the county told us the lot was splittable, but you can't build a permanent structure on that, which we're not doing. We're putting a dock up, beautify the dock. We're not 500 foot away. We're about 300 foot away because that lot's only 150 foot long. So, and the lot that I bought from you.
That's right.
Right,
And
so.
you knew when you bought it, that there was no second tier docks.
Not a second
Please,
tier dock.
this is for
So
public
anyway,
comment. Please do not.
being that said, I'm trying to be a good neighbor and kind. Everything that I've done down here, I've done legally through the council, through all that. We ruled on that on April 26th, whatever it was. So I assume that ruling still stands. And, we're moving forward, with the dock. As far as the shed that's being put up, no, I'm not doing a shed, but, it's my understanding that you can put a 120 square foot non-removable building on a lot. I'm not doing that. And also, if my house is sold, the lot and the dock will be sold with the house because it'll be part of the deed on the lot across the street. So there's not going to be anybody, splitting it up or selling it because, I can sell a lot. I'm not that guy. I'm not doing that. It's going to be part of one property. That's how we're going to get it recorded, and that will be in our trust. So that's the direction we want to go. I've already made a deposit on the dock, permits being done and all that. So that's where I'm at. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Hi, I'm Kendra Sprague. We're the ones who bought the new house in the blue.
Ma'am, could you please state your address?
Oh, yes, so 15645 Gardner East Road. I was down at the courthouse today and I thought I'd throw out the information that, we have everything in place, don't need a permit for a 8x12 shed. We're off the property line and measured over, and everything's taken care of with the meeting that I had today. So I just wanted you guys to know that.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Walt Hutzel.
We currently reside at 15298 Lake Road 1. Just a couple of issues, comments I've heard. For one thing, she said that they were cutting the bushes down along the side of the property line. That's because the bushes were on the property in question. They weren't on her property. They were on the property where they were being cut down. So, I mean, it's like you're allowed to cut bushes down that are growing on your own property. So that's clarification number one. Clarification number two, some of the comments about urinating in the bushes and all that stuff, I kind of take that as a reflection on us. We live there, and I have never seen that done. You know, I've never allowed anyone to go down there and urinate in public. Number two, Joy Evans does not live at the property. She rents it. It's a rental house. So she's not there during the weekends. So anyway, the other clarification is that basically that we've already made arrangements, we've already spent the money, he's already put deposits on the thing, it's already been approved. And anyway, that was my understanding because we didn't move forward until we had permission to move forward. And now, you know, we feel like the arrangements have been made, and we've spent money and time having it surveyed, going to the county. Bill's already put a deposit on a boat dock. There's money been spent, so we feel like the approval's been made, and we didn't try to do something without first coming to the city council. So anyway, thank you.
Any further comment? No further comment. We're going to move on to the consent agenda. Is there any member of the council wishes to remove an item from the consent agenda?
Number 3.
Number 3. All right. Do we have any other items that need to be removed? We'll entertain a motion on consent agenda items 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8.
So moved.
Second.
Motion Melton, second Moore, that we approve consent agenda items 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, any abstentions? Consent agenda items other than consent agenda item 3 have been passed. Consent agenda item number 3, consider authorizing the city administrator to enter into a contract with J&J DBA Topeka Sod Farm for fairway rehabilitation at the Gardner Golf Course. Councilmember Gregorsik, what is your question?
I just wanted to clarify that spend was already
Yes,
in budget.
I believe that is the case, yes. It was
Thank you.
part of the $1.3
Contractually
million
obligated.
that were
Correct.
allocated.
That's all I had, sir.
Just for the record, yes, it was part of the $290,000 in additional renovations to the golf course.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion on consent agenda item
So moved.
3.
Second.
Motion Gregorsik, second Melton, that we authorize the city administrator to enter into a contract with J&J DBA Topeka Sod Farm for fairway rehabilitation at the Gardner Golf Course. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Consent agenda item number 3 passes. We have no committee recommendations. We have no old business. We do, however, have 5 new business items. These are going to be housekeeping now that we've gone through the public hearing, for the most part. Also, that we've also got some things to do with the Tuscan Farms sanitary lift station. So we'll start with that first. New business item number 1, consider approving an ordinance levying and assessing special assessments on certain lots, pieces, and parcels of land liable for such special assessments to pay the costs for internal improvements that the city of Gardner, Kansas has authorized by resolution 2012 of the city, specifically the Tuscan Farms sanitary lift station. Who is doing the presentation of this? Yes, Michael, sorry, Matt Wolf, good evening.
Good
evening, Mayor, Council.
Cheat sheet.
Yeah,
As you mentioned, these are actually housekeeping items also.
Yes.
Both this item and the next item are related to the Tuscan Farms residential development, which was approved on basically February 18th, 2019. We approved 2 benefit districts, one for a lift station, then one was for phase 1 construction improvements. So this first ordinance is basically levying $1.3 million to, or $1,325,000 for benefit district improvements for a lift station and related site improvements for Tuscan Farm property over 15 years. Staff recommends adopting the ordinance and assessing special assessments on the property. And I also want to point out Bond Counsel Ellsworth and also Senior Municipal Advisor Kimmel are both here tonight.
Thank you, Mike. Ed, yes. I said Matt.
Oh, I thought you said Mike.
No, I said Matt.
Are you sure? Good.
Yes, I did. Thank you.
You got me all-
Any public comment on new business item number 1? Seeing none, any questions for Matt Wolf?
Good call.
Yeah, all right. All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion on new business item number 1.
So moved.
Second.
Motion Milton, second Moore, that we adopt ordinance number 2613, levying and assessing special assessments on certain lots, pieces, and parcels of land liable for such special assessments to pay the cost of internal improvements in the city of Gardner, Kansas, is authorized by resolution 2012 of the city, specifically Tuscan Farm Sanitary Lift Station Special Benefit District. City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilman Winters,
Yes.
Councilman Baldwin,
Yes.
Councilman Graversick,
Yes?
Councilman Melton,
Yes.
Councilman Moore,
Yes.
Ordinance 2613 passes. New business item number 2, consider approving an ordinance levying and assessing special assessments on certain lots, pieces, and parcels of land liable for such special assessments to pay the cost of certain infrastructure improvements to serve the Tuscan Farm residential development in the city of Gardner, Kansas. Matt?
Very similar to the last item, except this is for the other benefit district. This ordinance levies $2,620,000 for the benefit district improvements for phase 1 infrastructure improvements for Tuscan Farm property over 15 years. Once again, staff recommends adopting the ordinance and assessing special assessments on the property.
Excellent. Any public comment on new business item number 2? I wouldn't expect there to be any, but. All right. Questions, comments for Matt on this particular item? Okay, I will entertain a motion on ordinance number 2614.
So moved.
Second.
Motion Gregorczyk, second Winters, that we adopt ordinance 2614, levying and assessing special assessments on certain lots, pieces, and parcels of land liable for such special assessments to pay the cost of certain infrastructure improvements in the city of Gardner, Kansas, as authorized by resolution 2013 of the city, Tuscan Farm Phase 1 Infrastructure Special Benefit District. City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilman Baldwin,
Yes.
Councilman Graversick,
Yes.
Councilman Moore,
Yes.
Councilman Winters,
Yes.
Ordinance 2614 passes 4-0 with one member absent. New business item number 3, consider adopting a resolution revising multiple sections of the Personnel Policy Manual 2018 edition. Alan Abramovitz, good evening.
So we have 2 sections here of the personnel policy with one resolution. The first one is the police career ladders, and as you recall, back in April, at the April 1st meeting, we revised the pay plan to include a police officer 2 position, and that was with 5 years experience and a minimum performance rating of exceptional. After some feedback, in particular from Councilmember Winters, it was decided to change that to say that the police officers would need a performance evaluation of high quality, which is 1 level below that, and of course they would still need the 5 years of experience. Based on current longevity and the 2018 performance evaluations, the additional estimated cost for the police officer 2 changes is $18,886. Okay, any questions on that part of it?
No, we can hold the question
Okay.
until you've done the entire
Okay.
presentation.
Next item is on the longevity bonus. This, I believe, was brought up by Council Member Gregorczyk and perhaps others regarding wanting additional rewards for longevity for employees that have longevity. And so currently, our longevity bonus is that employees receive $1 for each month of service with a minimum of $50. And that's generally distributed right around Thanksgiving. To further enhance this program and reward longer tenured employees, staff is recommending that employees receive $2 for each month of service with a minimum of $100. The current annual cost of the longevity bonus program is $16,252. So obviously, increasing it by another $1 would cost $32,504. Now, we did survey some other cities. Many cities do not have any kind of bonus program. Other cities do, but it is not as, they're not as generous as ours, and some of them only reward exempt employees and not non-exempt employees, which kind of defeats the purpose. So we are recommending that we pass Resolution 2021 to revise the revised personnel policies.
Great. Thank you, Alan. Any public comment on new business item number 3? Questions, comments for Alan on this?
Did I miss the part? Did we go over the employee sign stuff? Was that in this?
It's on the same.
Right, yeah. I just want to make sure I was out, so I don't know if that was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no, not the signs. No, we haven't talked about that. That's a different policy. Manual.
Political signs.
Yes.
That's next meeting.
Next meeting.
Yeah.
Couldn't get to this one.
No, I understand.
So
just want to make sure I didn't miss it when I was gone. You know.
I know that you had concerns about the longevity program. So
I don't have any more concerns. I just appreciate staff's work on looking at this and finding value in it. I think it's a great opportunity to distinguish ourselves from other cities, as Alan just spoke to. And I think that the cost benefit is outweighed by the tenure. So tribal knowledge is so important. We just saw that in Laura, for that matter. So I appreciate Alan and his team's work on this.
Great, thanks. Any other questions, comments?
Now that Laura's not here, the cost just went down quite a bit. Probably.
Amen.
Yeah.
She's watching this on live stream, I'm sure.
No,
she's not. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning in Europe right now. So.
She's really bored if she's watching this.
She said she'd have a hard time getting away from this, so we'll see.
Yeah, she said that before she got to Europe.
Yeah, exactly. All right, great. Well, I'll entertain a motion on new business item number 3.
So moved.
Second.
Motion, Gregorczyk, second Moore, that we adopt resolution number, I believe, 2021. Is that correct? Providing for the adoption of revisions of multiple sections of the Personnel Policies and Procedures 2018 edition for the city of Gardner, Kansas. City Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilman Gregorczyk?
Yes.
Councilman Milton?
Yes.
Councilman Moore?
Yes.
Councilman Winters?
Yes.
Councilman Baldwin?
Yes.
Resolution 2021 passes. Thank you, Alan, for your work on this. Really appreciate it. New business item number 4, consider request for waiver of distance limitation special event permit to allow for the sale of cereal malt beverages within 200 feet of a school, church, or library during the Smoke on the Trails barbecue competition to be held September 27th and 28th, 2019 at Celebration Park. Jason Bruce. You're bringing your laptop. That was interesting. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's basically just a housekeeping item that we have, is for getting your approval for our distance waiver limitation for our event on September 27th, 28th for the this one is the Trails barbecue competition. The next one's for the craft beer wine.
Correct. All right.
Any questions?
Any public comment?
Public comment.
Actually, there wouldn't be any public comment because we already had a public hearing.
Right.
So we'll move on to questions. Any questions from staff? Or for staff from council?
I really want to have one.
Yeah.
You can't find one. This is Celebration Park after all. It's not exactly. All right. I'll entertain a motion then on new business item number 4.
So moved.
Second.
Motion Melton, second Moore, that we approve a request for waiver distance limitation to approve a special event permit to allow for the sale of cereal malt beverages within 200 feet of a school, church, or library during the Smoke on the Trails barbecue competition to be held September 27th and 28th, 2019, Celebration Park. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, any abstentions? New business item number 4 passes. New business item number 5, and we can just go on into a motion if you'd like, because we've already discussed this underneath the public hearing, or if you'd like to do a quick
Nope, just housekeeping.
Okay, all right. So I'm trying to move things along. I'm looking at the radar.
It's coming.
So moved.
Oh, I gotta ask for the motion first. I have a motion on new business item number 5.
So moved.
Second.
Motion Gregorczyk, second Melton, that we approve waiver distance limitation request for a special event permit to allow for the distribution of samples of cereal, malt beverages, and wine within 200 feet of a school, church, or library during the Craft Beer and Wine Festival to be held September 28th, 2019, Celebration Park. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, any abstentions? New business item number 5 passes. And as I just mentioned, we do have severe thunderstorm warnings coming to the west. There are some supercells, so if you wish to try to beat the rain, you may want to, I'm just telling you that for your own personal benefit and safety, okay? We do have an executive session after council updates, so I wanted to let people know. Speaking of council updates, does staff have anything for council? I'm going to start with Interim Police Chief Jay Belcher, and welcome, by the way, to the dais.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, nothing.
Okay. City Clerk. Finance.
Nothing for tonight.
Great. Hi, Chuck. Good seeing you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing for legal.
All right, great. Michael Kramer.
Yeah, one update that I wanted to give, and that's last week KDOT announced their Kansas Airport Improvement Program, their regular grants for 2020, and which starts this July 1st. And the airport was awarded another grant through that program for $100,000 of pavement improvements. So that include runway 826, striping, and then improvements around the taxiways and apron.
That's great. Great news. Thank you very much.
And that's a one that actually has been in their queue since like 2016, asking for funding. So
great. And that's for 2020 work too.
That's for Kansas fiscal year 2020, which begins this July 1 of 2019. Yes.
All right. Excellent. Thank you. Larry Powell, Development and Economic.
Just a couple of reminders, which you may already have on your agenda, but
Yes.
we have a Regional Economic Development Conference May 8th, which will be held at the Johnson County Community College as part of the Johnson County Economic Development Annual Meeting at 2:45 on that campus. If you're interested in attending, please RSVP my office or myself just for a head count for attendance in that meeting. That part of the event is free. The annual meeting does have a cost to it, but that is also on the city's website if people wish to attend that. And then, of course, you have your State of the City, which I'm sure you'll mention on May 15th.
Okay, great. Thank you. Jason Bruce, anything else from Parks and Rec?
No, sir.
And Gons, Utilities. I got a couple of things for utilities later, but yes.
Well, one item on the Friday minute memo 2 weeks ago, there was an item regarding a Senate Bill 69. And just to do a brief summary, on April 10th, 2019, the Kansas governor passed Senate Bill 69 that requires the top 3 largest municipal electric utilities by consumer count to participate in a statewide electric rate study. Right now, the top 2 for sure is VPU, Garden City, and it looks like McPherson is the 3rd one, but Gardner is 4th between 3. So right now we're fighting if we're 3 or 4. So we're having a meeting on Thursday during the KMU conference to talk about this issue.
So we want to be 4th, right? Is that?
Yes,
For
sir.
this particular.
Even
Right.
third.
This is what we don't want to be at the top
After
of the
they
list.
get done, we
Exactly.
can be 3rd again. So.
But it's my understanding the cost of this study is in the $1 million.
We don't want to.
Yeah, we definitely want to be number 4.
That's all I have.
All right, great. Thanks, Gon. Appreciate it. Quick shout out to your crew for the work that you all did last Tuesday on the water main break at Main Street. It was significant. It wasn't just one break, it was several breaks that were serial in nature. So in the middle of a very strong rainstorm and a lot of water going into those holes as we're trying to get water sealed up in those holes. So it was not a pleasant experience. It was at night. So I want to give props to your water team. Did a great job on that. So, okay. Anything from the city administrator?
Yes, sir.
Welcome to the chair.
Thank you.
Hopefully it's not too hot.
Not like it up here.
All right, good. Excellent, excellent. Does council have anything for staff? I'm going to start on the far left today, or your far right. Yes.
I just had one item, although we heard the thunder in the background. Out riding my bike in this beautiful weather, I rode some neighborhoods to the south of the railroad tracks and west of Moonlight and west of Gardner Road. And this question is for Michael. I just noticed a lot of curbs in disrepair, and I think that the heavy rains that we've had in the last week or two have washed out some of the loose stuff, as well as, the snowfall and the plows, which did a great job in the wintertime. And I'm just wondering if we're gonna reevaluate all the curbing versus when we evaluated it, almost a year ago?
Yeah, so that's actually been one of our staff's concerns as well. And last week I went out and looked at a few streets with Jody. And part of the area down there where you're talking about was prior to me being in this position and prior to us doing much of any curb work. And so some of the streets, Hawthorne, Dogwood, and Acorn, some of those streets were, I believe, in 2016, maybe 2017, and skipped over due to lack of funding and a lack of, direction as far as whether or not we were doing curbs as part of the project. Certainly of those streets, like Acorn is from the top of the hill east towards Cedar is some of the worst curb in the city. I mean, and so there's several areas like that we intend to go back and look at and address. There's one area up north off of 167th, one that we'd received the email in the last month or two, and we've added that one to our bid on the project. But actually, we're concerned about some neighboring streets around there that, quite honestly, they look worse today than when I was out there just a couple months ago. And I think it's due, primarily to the original construction of the curb and the bad aggregate, et cetera. But yes, we've got it on our radar to go back and look at curb programs.
Yeah, thank you. I think Mother Nature accelerated. I just want to make sure we were going to take another look-see before we engaged in that project.
And some of those may not occur with this year's project, but definitely looking at moving forward or maybe doing a fall project. We'll have to kind of see where prices come in.
Thank you, Michael. That's all I had, Mayor.
Great, thanks, Randy. Mark Baldwin.
Yes.
Michael, when you're talking about the riprap at the lake, if we need some new material for it, is it possible to reuse some of the spillway that we tear out for that material to save any cost?
It is possible, but that'd be pretty small for riprap.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I have a question regarding the dock stuff. Do we want to do that individually or talk about it as a group?
It's your floor. It's my floor. It's your floor.
What restrictions do we have on how big the piece of property has to be to put a dock on it?
So, to my knowledge, the code really doesn't speak to a size, but there are some widths of the dock itself that are a limitation as far, but those aren't codified in the code. Those are in our design criteria and guidelines.
Do we have any restrictions on the number of docks a person or a property owner can have?
I'm not sure that by code you could have more than one dock per your piece of property.
Okay, so hearing everything we heard, to me it boils down to, if we remove the roads, which we agreed to, you have a piece of property against the lake, everything else is semi-irrelevant. So it comes down to the size of that piece of property so that you can't just keep splitting it over and over and over and have
Correct.
just big enough for a dock.
Can't do
So,
that anyway.
if there is any clarification in our guidance there, I think it should be about how big that parcel has to be along the lake side. Just so it's clear to someone out there.
So do we want to put a width limitation on those parcels?
Isn't-
The problem is you're going to run into situations where you have parcels already out on the lake that are tier 1 parcels that are already pretty narrow and have docks on them.
You could make it a square footage requirement, so much of the parcel's gotta be a certain square footage. I mean,
Isn't that
but
already,
from now on, they can't be parceled into something smaller than that, though.
but isn't that already codified?
I think so.
I mean,
because
as far
it's-
as
with
a
the county, they have.
yeah, a county's not going to let you split infinitely down to the tiniest.
I think the
sliver.
county requires any more than 2 subdivisions to be to run through commission.
So that seems like it's covered.
So,
If it's covered, then we're good.
but yeah, and with any of these too, with regard to the lots, not the lots necessarily, but the docks, I think that if we work with the folks at the Gardner Lake Association and work with the lake owners, we can probably have them give us some good feedback as to clarifications. I think we'd already discussed doing that anyway, right? So we'll tighten that up if we need to. Okay. All right. Councilman Melton.
Wow, skipped you, Todd. I don't know what
No,
you did.
no.
Okay, all right, so,
Done.
you're bouncing, okay.
Yeah.
So can we run that, video? So I've got a video here, I know, I've talked so many times about a crosswalk around 183rd Street and,
Aspen Creek.
yeah, the Aspen Creek entrance. And then,
Canton/Mulberry.
right, and then, another one probably down the street for, what is that one? We just talked
That's
about it.
Spruce.
Spruce, right.
Offset with Sycamore.
So pause it real quick, we're gonna back up for a second, so,
Actually, no, she's right there.
no, just hold on, I got a plan here, just back it up to the beginning. So I want you to see, this is from a person's house, and there's a child in the very foreground behind this tree, you can see on a bicycle. So that, as this starts, there's a child that is crossing the street, and then we're gonna go ahead and play it, and you'll watch over here, over by the numbers, there's another kid that is walking down here in kind of a pink or orange sweatshirt.
Yeah.
So as you watch her coming down here, this is actually
This is after school.
after school. She comes into this intersection and is looking around.
She doesn't see a crosswalk.
Right, okay, thank you.
Yep.
So finally, what you're gonna see here is she's gonna finally get a car to stop.
She's not a paid actor, right?
No. So watch this,
Just wanted to
watch.
clarify.
Right. So we're lucky to have this video and not have kid hurt because people just don't pay attention. So I'm gonna ask again that we do something with those two places and put some kind of crosswalk in or flashing lights, I don't care. But we've gotta get something so people don't realize that somebody's not just stopped in the road for no reason. And they just go past them because that's a double yellow line right there that they crossed over.
Yeah, I couldn't support you more, Melton. I brought this up just as well. And there's a slew of kids that come out of that neighborhood and the one just to the west to get over to the elementary and middle school, whether it's bicycle or pedestrians. And I think your video says it all. Thank you.
Yep. So I'd like to, I know we've done traffic counts and all the other stuff, but I think we need to just make something happen there before somebody gets hurt.
Yeah, so if I may, number one, I appreciate the video. It does help shed some light on the situation. We did do our study previously when this first came up, and it did say yes. It looks like we're needing to do some improvements there. The improvements do include extending some sidewalk on the south, changing some ramps and such on the north side.
Okay.
And completing some work, and part of it, in order to do that, also requires some the culvert across Mulberry to be
Sure.
extended and
Yep.
such. And we're currently working with an engineer on a scope and fee to do that design for us. So
Great.
we are moving forward
I appreciate it.
with
'Cause
that project.
This,
yes.
as you might imagine, this father was not real happy when he got hold of me.
And you know, Chief could probably speak to this better than me, but the following vehicle there violated, you know,
Oh, yeah.
4 or 5
Oh,
codes
many, I know.
of our standard traffic ordinance, and you know, and quite honestly, looked like wasn't paying attention whatsoever. And so, I appreciate it coming forward. I would urge our drivers to pay attention to what's in front of them and drive safely. And
Yep, thank you, Michael.
5 seconds.
Thank you.
5 seconds early, that could have been a tragedy.
Yeah, so that's all I had. So
I agree.
I think we need to just, whatever it takes to get that done before the next school year starts.
Thanks, Rich. Appreciate it.
Well, we've got summer traffic getting to the pool. So
Well, it's,
I think
yeah.
as soon as best.
Yeah.
Todd Winters.
Yes, just one thing. If Jason, I'm sure everyone got an email about beaver dams.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yes.
didn't know what if you could just update us on that.
Yeah, this is a problem we ran into in the past, both at Celebration Park and at the Greenway, and so we hire out a trapper to trap them. So we're working it. Once we get them out, we can get staff in there to clear out those areas.
Great.
Can we get pictures of the beavers before they go out, just for, be fun to have?
Council President Moore.
I don't have anything this time.
All right, great, thanks. See, I knew that, that's why we started with. Yes, you want to double dip?
I
Okay.
do.
All right, all right.
I
Mark
usually
Baldwin.
don't, but
Yeah, please.
I would like to applaud the new city administrator. I have been asking question after question on this agenda.
And bizarre ones.
Yes, you probably saw a few of them.
Like sewing the grass.
I was quite in depth on the golf course thing. That's yeah. So anyway, I appreciate all of the quick responses and all of the answers you got me and staff that supported the city administrator there.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. I appreciate the props on behalf of the staff, and I'm sure that they appreciate it as well. I wanted to mention again, much props and thanks to the folks in the city staff who got ahead of that bad storm last week. A little bit of an extra on the water thing. We actually had a water pressure warning on one of our water towers. If they hadn't gotten there quickly and gone through all that as timely as they did, we would have had water emergencies in town and would have probably had boil orders issued. It was their quick response and the fact they stayed out there with 4 in the morning. Is that right, Gons? 3 in the morning. Yeah, 3 in the morning to get that done. That's just a very great testament to customer service that we're providing as a community. And you guys don't get enough credit when things are done right, so I want to acknowledge that. Also, State of the City is next Wednesday, not this coming Wednesday, but next Wednesday. It will be the first official event at the new Hampton Inn Gardner Conference Center. Hey, we're all excited about it too. I got Bruce Kimmel here raising the roof. That's awesome. I don't know if I didn't think I'd ever see that, but thanks, Bruce. I appreciate that. And we would like to invite all members of the community who can make it to go. It starts 11:30, ends at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. All you need to do is RSVP to our staff so that we can get your head count, but we would love to have you attend. It's going to be a great event. Really neat to showcase a new business in our community. So with that being said, we do have an executive session. There is we have to do an amendment on the motion because the motion that was published was not correct. It is actually to discuss advice of counsel and attorney-client privilege communication. So I would entertain a motion on executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion Melton, second Moore, that we consider entering into executive session to discuss advice of counsel under attorney-client privilege. All those in favor indicate by saying.
You need to specify
I gotta
the-
specify the time, yes. Starting at 8:10 p.m. and ending at 8:55 p.m. It's a 45-minute executive session.
That's all?
That's all, yeah, go figure that one.
I'll fix that.
I'm sure you will. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, any abstentions? We are recessed into executive session. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Nothing's changed. What we're looking for is clarifications, but the clarifications have nothing to do with your situation. So we're good. We're all done for all right? Yeah, no problem.
I'll have it.
Nobody waited for us?
Oh, I know.
I saw 20 in the audience.
I know.
They're in the bathroom.
Oh, is that right?
They're all there together.
They're all there. Okay.
You can come back in now.
It's all clear.
It's still raining out there.
Is it?
Yeah. Yep.
I think the worst part of it's gone.
Worst part of it's gone. It was starting up just as we were about to go into executive session. We were in the right place.
Yeah.
We were in the right
Yes,
place.
it's on a
And
very
there,
big
yeah,
wall.
exactly. Nice interior room with no windows. We were good.
Dean's office just happens to be the safest spot in the building.
Yeah, we're right next to it.
There you go.
So. Yeah.
Although, I mean, should we have split ourselves up? You know, like the president and the vice president
That's
should
right,
be
y'all
the
say
same.
the same
No,
thing.
we
Just
shouldn't
in
have been in
case.
the same place.
Right,
That's
continuity
a
of
lot.
government. Gotta
That's a lot
keep
of
it.
government in one
Continuity of
officer.
government.
Put you one in each room.
That's true. That's true. Okay, we
Who
got
would
about
run
a
the
minute
city?
and a half. We can go ahead and get started again. Aren't you glad we only had a 45-minute executive session?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we only needed about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, well, they needed to do their presentation. It was important that we learn all the information. that we
Right. Don't talk about it.
Yes.
10 minutes of presentation, 10 minutes of, we agree.
Yes.
Go
You
this
know,
way.
we would have been there a lot sooner if it weren't for the food.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting. I have to admit.
That was the first time I've ever had to use the gavel to call.
That was pretty cool, yeah.
I know. I was like, there's clearly some backstory here. We're not.
It was two.
We got some of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, are we recording?
We're totally recording.
Recording yet?
Yeah, see?
See,
No
that
worries.
might be a problem. All right.
Hey, everybody on the video got to see
How many
it.
minutes? Still 2 minutes.
Two, yeah.
Yep, it's 8:53.
So we got 2 minutes, okay.
So yeah, that was pretty cool. Two gavels.
Yeah.
In quick, rapid succession.
I was not gonna put up with that.
Right.
Kind of-
I was going to grab it, and then he already used it. I was.
It's public comments, it's not public food fight. Sorry.
Now I want to know what's going to happen when somebody doesn't respect your gavel down.
That's why
I
we
want to see
have.
that.
More gavel.
Yeah.
This thing's going to be like.
That's why we got Officer Benz over here.
Enforcer over here.
Yes, sir.
Right, taser. Taser.
All right, Rich, what do you think of going back to taser, Rich?
He's got one over
My
there.
goodness. Let's see, Mr. Journey.
He's probably went home.
Won't surprise me. All right.
It's administrators with the lawyer.
Yes.
Oh, now he's going to wait until the last second to come back from executive session. It's like when he shows up. Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't run back in here. Sure, we don't need 15 more minutes. What'd you get, mail?
I did. I got a letter from Energy Transfer.
All right. Now it is exactly 55, is it not? Yes, it is. I'll entertain a motion to resume regular
So
session.
moved. Second.
Motion from Gorsuch, second. Melton, that we resume regular session. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? We are back in regular session. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion Melton, second. Winters, that we adjourn. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? We are adjourned. Hey, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.